Oo.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting for the Committee on Appropriations is hereby called to order. May we please rise for the national anthem. We will take 1 minute of silent prayer. So again, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Mother Committee briefing for the Department of Tourism and its attached agencies. Will the committee secretary please acknowledge our wonderful guests and resource persons?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. May we first acknowledge the virtual presence of the following officials and members of the House of Representatives. Deputy Speaker Evelina Escudero, Deputy Speaker Deogracias Victor Sabellano, Deputy Majority Leader Ria Cristina Fariñas, Deputy Minority Leader Sharian Tan, Senior Vice Chairperson Elinita Milagros Permita Buhain, Vice Chairperson Lorna Bautista Bandigan, Vice Chairperson Jocelyn C. Lim Caichong, Vice Chairperson Luisa Loren Cuaresma, Representative Sergio Dagoc, Representative Hector Sanchez, Representative Joy Mayra Tambunting, Representative Angelo Marcos Barba, Representative Franz Castro, Representative Abdullah Di Maporo, Representative Mario Vittorio Marvi Marino, Representative Fernando T. Cabredo, Representative Jocelyn P. Tulfo, Representative Sol Aragones, Representative Florida Rida Robes, Representative Rico B. Heron, Representative Aloy Lim, Representative Mark Go, Representative Macnel Lusotan, Representative Adriano Ebcas, and Representative Aurelio Dong Gonzalez Jr. May we also acknowledge the physical presence at the session hall of the Secretary of the Department of Tourism, Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat, the Engineer Morales, OIC Assistant Secretary for Regional Operations, Attorney Reynaldo Elchi, OIC Undersecretary for Administration and Finance. Milagros Say, OIC Assistant Secretary, Administration and Finance. Ms. Mary Angeline Arbit Tolentino, Director, Administrative Service and Procurement Management. Deputy Executive Director Ezril Gayos Apelar. Engineer Nestor Dumalanta, Assistant Chief Operating Officer of the CIEZA. Ms. Noel Bautista, Department Manager of Marketing of Philippine Retirement Authority. Mr. Roman Bersamira, Chief Accountant. Ms. Josephine Andaya, Chief Budget Division. Ms. Orlando Brian Du, and Cesar Claro Denison Manuel. Bernardine Belmonte. And also in Zoom are all the undersecretaries, assistant secretaries, and heads of attached agencies and corporations, including regional directors of the department. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Committee Secretary. Secretary Berna, it's great to see you here, and it's great to see you in good health, and likewise for all of the heads of the attached agencies and all the other representatives. Before we start, I'd like to congratulate your department on how well you did. I believe you are number one ranked by the Commission on Audit. So give yourselves a big pat on the back. I'm very proud of you, especially since I've been defending your budget for many, many years now, even in past administrations. With that, perhaps we know that you're all busy and that you have a lot of other things to attend to, especially in these trying times. Perhaps we can begin with a briefing.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, Congressman Jack Blavitt, honorable members of the House of Representatives, good morning. On behalf of all the DOT officials and staff, we would like to express our sincere gratitude for your unwavering support, especially to Congressman Jack Blavitt, to the Department of Tourism's plans and programs. The help of Congress for the industry cannot be overemphasized, as we always look up to both houses for the support to our budget, policies, programs, and opportunities to further develop our sector. Without a doubt, tourism has been one of the hardest hit industries by this pandemic. According to the United Nations World Tourism Organization, global tourism in 2020 suffered its worst year on record, with international arrivals declining by a staggering 73%, which translates to approximately 1 billion fewer arrivals compared to the previous year. Despite the challenges and limitations in both 2020 and 2021, the Department of Tourism has been relentless in its efforts to keep the tourism industry afloat while laying the groundwork for the industry's recovery. Last 2020, efforts were focused heavily on providing immediate response to those displaced by the pandemic. During the industry's downtime, we were able to reskill, upskill, and retool the tourism stakeholders with the health and safety protocols and operations under a new normal environment. As the situation evolved and plans were put in place, we were able to reopen, of course, together with the permission of the LGUs, several tourist destinations across the country, while putting emphasis on health and safety protocols. With international travel at a standstill, domestic tourism will be at the forefront of our thrust as we gradually reopen the tourism industry. The pivot towards domestic tourism is based on the industry strength and current realities. Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to present our budget presentation for fiscal year 2022. Our presentation will cover the following. First, the DOT's performance and accomplishments for fiscal year 2020 and January to June of fiscal year 2021. The agency's policy thrust for fiscal year 2022 and the DOT's plans, programs, and proposed budget for fiscal year 2022. Before we go into a presentation of the DOT's programs, please allow me to provide a brief overview of the state of the global travel and tourism industry that has been greatly affected by the current pandemic. Based on the recent UNWTO World Tourism Barometer report issued in May of 2021, the global travel industry suffered a decline of 72.9% on international visitor arrivals in 2020. In the ASEAN region, the decline in visitor arrivals ranged from 79% to as much as 85% in 2020. And similar to our ASEAN neighbors, the Philippines registered a decline of 82% from 8.26 million tourist arrivals in 2019 to 1.48 million arrivals in 2020. Consequently, the Philippines registered an 82.58% dip in visitor receipts from $9.1 billion in 2019 to $1.6 billion in 2020. The impact has become all the more significant as in 2019, the Philippines achieved its highest numbers in terms of foreign arrivals, domestic trips, tourism revenue, and employment. The decline in 82% of foreign arrivals from 8.26 million tourists in 2019 to 1.48 million arrivals in 2020. It came side by side with the decline in domestic trips by 77.9% from 109,752,403 in 2019 to only 24,250,000 in 2020. Domestic tourism expenditure also posted a decline of 82.3%, amounting to 55.6 billion, compared with the previous year's 3.14 trillion. Employment in tourism was estimated at 4.6 million in 2020, lower by 18.1% compared to the 5.72 million in 2019. Share of employment in tourism to total employment in the country was recorded at 11.9%. The contribution of tourism direct gross value added to the Philippine economy, as measured by the gross domestic product, is estimated at 5.4%, which amounted to 973.31 billion pesos and is lower by 61.2% compared with 2.51 of the department to support its budget as follows: to ensure the responsive and timely formulation of the policy to ensure employability and productivity. In fulfillment of that thrust, we achieved the following: the issuance of 50 health and safety guidelines in the operations of tourism-related enterprises under various levels of community quarantine restrictions, a total of 11,059 accredited tourism enterprises compared to the 9,442 accredited enterprises for fiscal year 2019. The DOT received the World Travel and Tourism Council, or WTTC, Safe Travel Stamp last September 2020. The stamp allows travelers to recognize governments and businesses around the world which have adopted health and hygiene global standardized protocols. As of August 19, 2020, the DOT has recognized and issued the WTTC Safe Travel Stamp to 2 tourism destinations, namely Baguio City and Boracay, and to 184 accommodation establishments nationwide. As of the same date, 878 DOT accredited tourism enterprises applied for the Philippine Safety Seal certification, which is an interagency government initiative that includes the DILG, DTI, DOLE, among others. Of these, 775 were released while 103 applications are still on process. The Philippines also participated in over 14 international meetings and conferences, the ASEAN, APEC, the United Nations, World Tourism Organization, and the Pacific Asia Travel Association. Other accomplishments include the reformulation of the National Tourism Development Plan of 2006 to 2022 to review and recalibrate its targets, strategies, and programs for 2021 and 2022, which will guide the development of tourism in the new normal, and the development of the Philippine Tourism Manual on Climate Change, which will feature guidelines, national and local policies, strategic priorities, and approaches on climate change adaptation and mitigation. Pivoting to domestic tourism is the priority of the DOT to jumpstart the recovery of the industry. One of the key actions of the department was to recalibrate and create new products and tourism circuits. 2020 has seen the conduct of various product development initiatives that are continuing in 2021. At the moment, 44 tourism circuits have already been validated, spanning the entire country from food trips, crawls, and caravans. The development of products and circuits is a continuing process. 71 more circuits are in the pipeline for development and validation, covering all the regions of the country. Partnerships have been forged and travel consortiums formed for the packaging and selling of new tourism products. To create interest in our tourism products, online events have been organized as we pivot to a new normal environment. DOT and the Tourism Promotions Board have also conducted hybrid events that blend into an online and on-ground experience. To maintain the presence of the Philippines in international markets, trade development initiatives have continued, including participation in hybrid and virtual travel fairs and the organization of B2B sessions with Philippine sellers and market-based buyers. To provide a strong foundation for the development, enhancement, and recalibration of tourism products identified in the NTDP, we have conducted preparatory activities such as the development of product resource inventories and roadmaps, health and safety protocols for specific tourism products, and product-centric capacity building for product stakeholders. The DOT is also undertaking the development of tourism bubbles. We are spearheading the Clark Busuanga via Cebu and Clark Bohol travel bubbles. Originally scheduled in late August and early September, the tentative date of implementation was moved to October this year due to the recent travel restrictions. To enhance capacity among tourism workers, the DOT formulated the Philippine Tourism Human Resource Development Plan 2021 to 2025 to address challenges and issues faced by the tourism industry. The plan is geared towards achieving its vision of harnessing world-class competent tourism professionals through a harmonized tourism education. Further to this, the DOT inked a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Education, TESDA, CHED, and TIBFI for the convergence on tourism education and training. Under the DOT's Tourism Industry Training Program for 2020, a total of 558 trainings were conducted. This translates to 37,521 persons trained, while for fiscal year 2021, as of August 19, we were able to conduct 329 trainings, which translates to 18,184 persons trained. Taking into account the aforementioned accomplishments, the DOT has largely accomplished more than its target under its 4 programs, namely tourism policy formulation and planning, tourism industry training, standards development and enforcement, and market and product development programs. Flashed on the screen, esteemed members of this committee, are the actual accomplishments of the DOT based on our committed performance targets under the fiscal year 2020 General Appropriations Act. Most of these programs that exceeded the target were due to several strategies, policies, and action plans that were implemented to address the current scenario and because of our shift to online platforms, which allowed us to mount more trainings virtually and reach more people. On the other hand, programs that did not meet the target were due to activities that were halted and postponed due to the changes in community quarantines. In the next slide are the physical accomplishments of the DOT for the first semester of fiscal year 2021. Similarly, for this year, the shift to virtual activities and travel restrictions brought about by the community quarantines contributed to the performance of our 4 priority programs. To achieve our physical targets for 2020, we spent 1.91 billion pesos out of the 2.09 billion budget in fiscal year 2021, with 91% utilization rate. From January to July of fiscal year 2021, we have utilized 39% of our allotment. As with previous years, our utilization is accelerating towards the end of each fiscal year, as most of our PAPs, especially our big ticket projects, will be implemented in the second semester of fiscal year 2021. Further, changes in quarantine classifications have also affected the implementation of our programs and activities. These changes include reschedulings or postponement. Rest assured, we will be able to use our appropriations before the end of the year. Again, I would like to thank our Congress for the Bayanihan 2 funds, which has greatly helped the tourism industries and its workers throughout the pandemic. The DOT, through our regional offices and in partnership with the LGUs, rendered administrative support to DOLE and SB Corps to ensure the effective implementation of the Bayanihan assistance programs to benefit our tourism workers, including tour guides and MSMEs. The DOT and SB Corps have given access to zero interest, no collateral loans with a loan term period of up to 4 years, including a corresponding grace period of up to 2 years. 1 billion pesos was allotted for the Tourism Roads Infrastructure Program through DPWH as provided under Bayanihan Act 2. The DBM has downloaded the fund to DPWH Central to be downloaded to the regional offices. Trip projects considered in the said additional funding allocation were selected from the ongoing trip projects from 2020. In our bid to reopen domestic tourism, the DOT and Tourism Promotions Board first signed a memorandum of agreement with the UPPGH and the Philippine Children's Medical Center to subsidize 50% of the RT-PCR testing cost of local tourists traveling to destinations that have been declared safe for travel by the IATF and local government units. So with the UPPGH, RT-PCR costs 900 pesos and the results come out within the day. With the PCMC, RT-PCR only costs 750 pesos. There were more than 74,000 domestic tourists who applied for this program and were tested from January to August of 2021. In its efforts to bring back confidence to travel, the department coordinated with the National Task Force Against COVID-19 through Secretary Galvez and Secretary Vince Dizon for the vaccination of our tourism workers. As of August 30, 2021, the DOT regional offices reported 45.18% vaccination coverage of 219,263 tourism workers in A1 hotels. A1 hotels are the ones who work in isolation and quarantine facilities. Also regular hotels, other tourism enterprises, and tourism support services. Pursuant to the Supreme Court decision on the Mandanas-Garcia petitions and Section 17 of the Local Government Code, the department recognizes the need to lay down measures for the seamless transition of functions to the LGUs, given their additional funding and responsibilities beginning fiscal year 2022. Some of the functions of the DOT's tourism policy and planning and locally funded project under the branding campaign program shall be devolved to the LGUs. For the fiscal year 2022, we intend to push forward with its objective of ensuring the sustainability, resiliency, and inclusiveness of tourism based on the following strategic thrusts. the updated Philippine Development Plan of 2017 to 2022 presented the comprehensive scan of the political, economic, social, technological, ecological, and legal dimensions under the new normal. Flashed on the screen is the strategic framework for expanding economic opportunities in services that have been reconfigured to respond to the rapid changes under the post-pandemic new normal scenario. Premised on the updated PDP 2017 to 2022, the DOT undertook the reformulation of its National Tourism Development Plan. Taking into weight the current health situation, the DOT will pursue the following strategic directions: promote safe, fun, and competitive tourism, pursue sustainable, inclusive, and resilient tourism, and strengthen governance and destination management. While the DOT has reformulated its NTDP for 2016 to 2022, it is now currently working on a new NTDP for 2022 to 2028 as a legacy document that will be submitted to the next administration, building on the work done and enhancing further strategies. In addition to the reformulated NTDP, the DOT undertook the updating of the Tourism Response and Recovery Plan with the main objective of mitigating the impacts of COVID-19 on the tourism industry. The plan is anchored on, first, ensuring protection of jobs and safety of tourism workers, visitors, and communities, supporting the recovery of tourism enterprises, and third, rebuilding confidence and growing demand in domestic and foreign markets. Based on the premises of PDP, the reformulated NTDP and updated TRRP, or thrust for fiscal year 2022, is focused mainly on tourism recovery and the implementation of the Mandanas-Garcia petition, which devolves some of the functions of the national government to local government units. Flashed on the screen will be our undertaking under tourism policy formulation and planning program. The tourism industry is a people-centered industry. The DOT will continue to ensure that tourism workers have accessible opportunities for employment. In this regard, we seek to reskill and upskill the tourism industry's human resource by providing relevant capacity building programs that are responsive to the needs of the tourism value chain. We will make use of existing technologies and innovations in order to reach and capacitate our tourism workers. Under Tourism Standards and Enforcement Program, we shall continue to improve service standards and restore confidence to travel, develop and enforce tourism standards that are at par with global best practices. As we pivot to domestic tourism and gradually open to international tourists, the DOT will continue to stay attuned to the ever-changing tourism trends and preferences for our domestic and foreign markets through continued product and market research. We will diversify and adapt product offerings to these new trends and market preferences, and as international borders start to open, the key strategic and opportunity markets will continue to be engaged and green lanes explored in preparation for revenge travel that is expected to ensue. In summary, the DOT OSEC is proposing a budget of 3.526 billion to support our plans and programs as we continue to rebuild the tourism industry. The Intramuros administration, on the other hand, is proposing a total budget of 63.710 million. The National Parks Development Committee will continue to discharge its mandate of developing, preserving, and managing the Rizal and Paco Park in Manila and other parks that may be assigned to it. In pursuit of this mandate, the NPDC is proposing a 203.798 million budget to cover its operations. Honorable members of this committee, the NPDC as well as the Intramuros administration prepared presentations if you wish to see the details of their proposal. In sum, the Department of Tourism, composed of the DOT OSEC, Intramuros Administration, and National Parks Development Committee, is proposing a budget of 3.794 billion pesos. Our road towards recovery is an uphill climb, but with your support, I know that we can and will rebuild a more resilient and sustainable tourism industry. After all, tourism is everyone's business. Let us work hand in hand in shaping a more resilient, inclusive, and sustainable tourism industry. Thank you and good day to all.
Thank you very much for that. A very comprehensive presentation, Secretary Romulo Puyat. Before we open the floor to questions from the House members, as we all know, the Committee on Appropriations works hand in hand for future legislation with the standing committees of the corresponding departments. May I please recognize the chairperson for the Standing Committee on Tourism, Representative Chairperson Sol Aragones, for a brief manifestation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Kuya Jack, magandang umaga po sa inyo. Secretary Berna Romulo Puyat and the whole DOT family, magandang umaga po. This is actually a manifestation of support to the DOT family. Tama po kayo, Secretary Berna Romulo Puyat. Isa talaga sa nag-positive ay ang DOT o ang turismo ng bansa at talagang matindi ang hinaharap nitong mga nakaraang buwan, taon at hanggang sa ngayon. Pero ako po ay nagpapasalamat sa DOT sa pangunguna ni Secretary Berna Romulo Puyat dahil sa halip na panghinaan ng loob ay sumagwan ang DOT sa matinding hamon na ito. Sa katunayan, na-appreciate po namin, Secretary Berna, na sa kabila ng pandemya, umiikot kayo sa iba't ibang rehiyon ng bansa. Isa na po sa Laguna kung saan bumisita kayo noong February 2. Nakita ho namin kung paano kahit matindi yung banta sa kalusugan, pinuntahan nyo ang iba't ibang bayan sa aming distrito, pero hindi lang sa amin dahil pinapanood at binabantayan ko rin po kayo palagi sa Instagram. So bakit mahalaga ito na nabibisita nyo ang iba't ibang bahagi ng bansa sa panahon ng ito ng pandemya? Bagsak ho ang moral, malungkot ang bawat LGU na may matinding pinagkukunan ng hanap buhay ang turismo. Pero para sa DOT na bumibisita doon, nangungumusta, inaalam paano pa pwedeng makatulong lalo na sa health and safety protocols ng ating mga tourism workers ay malaking bagay po yon sa amin. Kaya po maraming salamat at personal nyo ring dinala ang DOT DOLE Financial Assistance, Working Capital Loans para sa iba't iba nating beneficiaries nito. At gaya po ng nasabi nyo kanina, 45% na ng tourism workers ang vaccinated. So malapit na. Halos kalahati na ho ang nabakunahan at ito'y malaking bagay na patuloy at kahit papaano yung magsisimula ulit ng pagbangon ng turismo ng bansa. Alam ho naming mahirap, pero salamat sa effort ng DOT at ng iba't iba pang organisasyon na tumutulong sa Departamento ng Turismo dahil kahit mahirap sumagwan kayo, kahit mahirap tumayo kayo, kahit mahirap umikot kayo, at alam natin na mahihirapan ng bumalik sa normal. Pero naniniwala po ako sa effort ng DOT, ng iba't ibang LGU, ng bawat individual na maaari hindi na tayo bumalik eksakto sa normal na definition natin. Pero alam natin na magiging handa dito ang DOT, ang taong bayan, sa tatawagin na natin o tinatawag nating new normal. With that, Secretary Berna Romulo Puyat and to the DOT family, thank you very much for all the support and congratulations. That's all, Mr. Chair. Kuya Jack, maraming salamat.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All right, we will be opening up the floor for questions. This is our third GAB for this term, so we all know the drill, but we will reiterate once again. We are on a tight schedule and we are here in the plenary hall, so let me just remind my dear colleagues of our procedures. Anyone that wishes to interpolate will be given 5 minutes. These 5 minutes are a total of your question time, and does not include the answer from the resource persons. Please adhere to these 5 minutes. I am normally very liberal and normally allow a little bit of leeway, but I will be compelled to cut you short if you go past the 5 minutes. Nevertheless, should you require more time, we will go into a second round of questioning. So you will be recognized again there should you require more time. You may also, or those listed may also give their time, give up their time to other members, but again, that will come on a second round. The tradition is that we begin with the minority and alternate from the minority to the majority and back again until everyone has had a chance to interact with the resource persons. We now open the floor, and we would like to recognize on the part of the minority, the Honorable Sherry Ann Tan.
Okay ka naman. First time mo ba yun?
Comsec, is Rep Tan logged on? And does she have a stable connection? Okay, she may be experiencing some technical difficulties. May we recognize on the part of the minority, the Honorable Franz Castro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I be heard, Mr. Chair? Can I continue?
Yes, please go ahead.
Magandang umaga po, Mr. Chair, sa ating mga minamahal na kasamahan sa Kongreso. Siyempre po, magandang umaga sa ating kalihim ng DOT at buong DOT family. So nakakalungkot, Mr. Chair, no, yung ating industriya ng turismo sa panahon ng pandemya, at kahit na ganon sa presentation naman ng ating kalihim ay unti-unti natin na binubuhay. In fact, in preparation para doon sa pagtatapos ng pandemya or nalalapit na sana matapos na yung pandemya or we can live with it, at naka-prepare na yung ating Department of Tourism. So unang tanong, Mr. Chair, yung pong budget natin so nakita natin yung budget natin for 2021, ang utilized ay at this time ay 39%. Tama po ba? So ano po ba yung kalakhan ng mga programa ng DOT na this last quarter ay isa sa katuparan po, Mr. Chair? Especially, I'm interested po doon sa kung meron tayong COVID response COVID response program, at saka syempre doon sa pagkakapacitate ng ating mga tourist stakeholders. Yun po. At alam naman natin, Mr. Chair, 'di ba, yung mga resort, yung mga hotel ay isa talaga sa laking impact ng effect ng pandemic. So, pwede po bang malaman, Mr. Chair, yung programa?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, ma'am. Normally po, for the first 6 months, even pre-pandemic, ganun po talaga yung budget utilization. It's 39%, minsan 31 to 39%. Kasi lahat ng mga projects talaga historically ng DOT is in the last part. Pero with regard to COVID response, tuloy-tuloy naman po yung COVID response. Yung pag-accredit to make sure that all the resorts and the hotels are accredited and pass the health and safety protocols. Tuloy-tuloy pa rin po through the TPB, nagbibigay po kami ng yung gaya po nung nasa Baguio, yung Visita Online Registration System para makatulong sa mga LGUs magbukas. Kasi yung Visita, yung online registration system, yun po, we give it for free. At yun po para ma-detect, malaman nila kung saan pumupunta yung mga visitors around their tourist spot. Tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung programa natin, yung pag-subsidize ng 50%. Para yung mga, kasi yun po yung reklamo, yung RT-PCR test daw napakamahal. So sa PCMC, 750 pesos lang po siya. And with the help of Secretary Charlie and Secretary Vince Dizon, umiikot po kami ng buong Pilipinas para ma-ensure natin na ma-vaccinate yung ating active tourism workers. Galing po kami sa Baguio and we are happy to say na as of today, 100% na po vaccinated yung ating tourism workers. Now, with regard to the other projects, yung hindi po COVID, yung the normal projects on the second half of 2021, I leave that up to muna kay Yusek Verna to discuss ano yung projects and then to ask Chris.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, for this. And thank you po for the questions. On the COVID response po, madami rin po tayong ginagawang projects to prepare for the opening of tourism, like yung development po natin ng mga various circuits sa iba-ibang lugar po dito sa ating bansa. So kanina po na-mention po ni Secretary na meron na po tayong nagawang mga tourism circuits that are related to food tourism, to environmental programs, to farm tourism, to dive, madami pong iba. Ito po ay para rin matulungan ng ating mga local communities na magkaroon sila ng mga programa para maiangat nila at makapag-recalibrate sila ng kanilang mga hanap buhay para po yung domestic tourism, pagka pwede na dito sa ating mga lugar, ay meron po silang sources of income para dito. Na-mention din po kanina yung capability building program. So ano ho yan, madami yan, may upskilling and reskilling programs din po tayong pinapatupad sa tulong ng ating mga regional offices at mga LGUs po para matulungan din po ang ating mga stakeholders na ma-equip sila for tourism development to prepare po for the opening and rebooting of the tourism industry. So ito po yung mga ginagawa natin sa DOT.
Thank you po, Mr. Chair. Doon po sa updating, no, baka pwede lang po ako makakuha, Mr. Chair, noong kanilang data on doon sa mga apektado nung pandemya, especially yung sa tourism industry, how many workers po yung mga naapektuhan, at saka yung mga ayuda po na naiano natin, ano, na mga naibigay natin, yung mga or yung mga kasi po ang tourism industry, marami po dito yung mga MSMEs, di po ba, no, yung mga MSMEs. So ano na po ba yung mailagay din po sa report yung naitulong natin doon sa ating mga MSMEs na kabilang doon sa ating tourism industry, Mr. Chair.
Can the department provide the same to the House? It would be very useful, not just for the Honorable Castro, but also for the rest of our members. Thank you, Honorable Castro. Would you like to proceed?
Thank you for that comment, Mr. Chair, para po iprosige natin itong ng DOT, yung industriya, kasi napakahalaga po nitong industriya ng turismo. Bagamat hindi malaki yung impact globally noong pandemic, Pero alam niyo po, malaki ang potential kasi ito naman pong local industry natin, local tourism natin. Ito naman po yung pinagkukuhanan ng ano no, meron din po bang program na mga ang ating Department of Tourism, Mr. Chair, para yung mga local tourism industry naman natin kasi ito naman yung malaking pinagkukuhanan din po natin ng ano no, ng malaking revenues. So kung meron po no yung baka pwede pong ma-relate po sa atin ng ating department, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Honorable Castro. We will do that.
Na gusto nating i-raise. Dito po ba sa Bayanihan 1 and 2, magkano po ba yung nai-contribute po natin sa COVID response?
Yes. Mr. Chair, sa
Secretary.
bayanihan po, wala pong specifically na ibigay sa tourism. Nakapagbigay sa mga tourism stakeholders pero walang nakasulat sa bayanihan 1 yung specific sa tourism. Pero for bayanihan 2, nakapag-allot ng 10.1 billion pesos, Mr. Chair. 6 billion under SB Core, yung po ay under DTI. Yung rates po noon ay 4 years to pay, 0 interest, 0 collateral, and a 2-year grace period. Tapos meron pong 3.1 billion na binigay pa through DOLE for financial assistance, equivalent to close to, we have here exacto, dapat 618,000 kasi may ano 600, how many beneficiaries ang nabigay? Kasi 5,000 pesos each for the 3.1 billion pesos. 614,000 ang naibigay. Tapos yung 1 billion po ay for infrastructure for sa TRIPSI na ito ay through the DPWH. We will be submitting po kung saan po napunta yung 1 billion.
Okay, so wala na pong natira, Mr. Chair, or savings. Wala na. Na-maximize na po lahat. Okay, so yun po yung mga yung sa COVID response po natin mahalaga na ma-maximize po natin sa panahon ng pandemya dahil especially yung mga workers po natin na talagang nangangailangan ng ayuda sa panahon na ito, Mr. Chair. So yun lang po, Mr. Chair, at maraming salamat po. Magandang umaga.
Thank you very much, Rep. Castro. Can we now recognize in the top part of the majority, Representative Mark Go from Baguio City?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Magandang umaga po sa lahat, lalo na po kay Secretary Berna. Kasama po namin sa dito noong September 1 dito po sa Baguio. Ang tulong po ng Department of Tourism ay talagang kami po ay nasisiyahan dito sa lungsod ng Baguio. Gusto ko pong i-confirm yung binanggit na kanina. Ito pong online registration system ng bisita program namin dito sa Baguio. Every time we meet with her and see her, we always see light at the end of the tunnel. Kaya kami po ay talagang nagpapasalamat sa Department of Tourism, hindi lamang po sa national level ng departamento, kundi na po pati rin dito sa regional office. Ako po ay talagang masigasig na gusto ko pong dagdagan sana ang budget ng Department of Tourism. Binabanggit ko po kay Secretary Berna, yung budget nila ngayon na 3.7 lang. Sa akin pong tingin dahil po sa malaking kontribusyon ng turismo sa ating bansa at yung masigasig na pagtatrabaho ng departamento, sa palagay ko po kailangan dagdagan yan. Alam ko po very prudent ang ating pong secretary sa paggastos ng pera ng Department of Tourism at nakita po natin yung binanggit nyo kanina, yung report ng COA ay napakaganda po ito. Pero having said that, ako po ay naniniwala na kung pwede nating dagdagan yan. napakaliit po ng kanilang, wala man silang capital outlay dito sa kanilang proposal. Ang pinakamalaki po rito yung MOOE at nakita naman natin yung kanilang ginagawa tungkol dito. Kung papayag po si Secretary Berna, ako po ay nagsasuggest na kung pwedeng dagdagan yan yung kanilang budget. Alam natin ang kontribusyon ng turismo sa ating gross domestic product, ang pagbibigay ng trabaho sa ating mga kababayan, pati na yung mga taxes na binabayaran ng mga iba't ibang tourism-oriented establishments. Hindi po natin baliwalain yan o hindi natin pwedeng baliwalain yan kasi ito'y nakakatulong sa ating bayan. Having said that, Mr. Chair, if it will be okay with our Secretary, as I stated, I propose that we consider additional budget to them. And I will leave that to the Secretary to present to us, probably not before finalize the budget. And I would be, at gusto ko rin po magpasalamat, hindi lamang po sa tulong niya sa bisita program namin dito. Po siya nandito, she was a witness to the vaccination of our tourism workers. At nakita ko po yung tuwa ng ating pong mga kababayan dito sa lungsod ng Baguio. Kaya umaasa po tayo na ito ay ma-implement din sa ibang lugar. Kaya kung sana magawa natin din ito sa iba't ibang lugar, mas maganda po ito. So wala po akong gustong itanong sa kanya. Ang gusto ko lang ay kung meron siyang additional na items na gustong isama sa budget, ay kung pwede tayong bigyan nito, Madam Secretary. At again, inuulit ko yung aking pasasalamat sa ating Department of Tourism, kay Secretary Berna, kay Director Joby ng CAR DOT, at lahat po ng mga opisyal ng Department of Tourism. So again po, maraming salamat po at God bless Madam Secretary at sa ating pong kasama sa Kongreso. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Go. As we will see, some of the attached agencies will be in need of augmentation, and we thank you for your support in advance. The Chair would like to now recognize the Honorable Representative Sara Ilago. Okay, Rep Ilago is currently in, I've been told, in another committee hearing. Is the Honorable Shari Ann Tan back online?
Yes po.
Yes, the Honorable Tan is recognized.
Yes, Mr. Chair, good morning. Good morning also to the good Secretary, Sec Berna. Mr. Chair, I would like to thank the Secretary for the support she has extended to Samar Province and to the Second District of Samar, particularly for the development and promotion of secret kitchens of Samar. Tourism Promotions Board funded also for the enhancement of the brand value of secret kitchens of Samar, particularly for the marketing and promotions program for the province dun sa culinary heritage program. And the office also funded for the product development and capacity development for the secret kitchens of Samar. So Sec Berna, thank you so much for the big support. And right now po, we are responding positively with the call of the good secretary for the continued and following of course the protocols na kakailanganin para makapag-restart po yung mga turista ho natin. So far yung mga local sites po natin, dinadagsa pa rin po naman ng mga turista. Hindi nga lang pareho ng number of tourists na pumupunta compared to, before pandemic. But meron pa rin ho. So currently, other mayors also of the respective municipalities also extended and parang nagpaabot po sila ng interest para mag-open po ng mga sites nila. Meron ho tayo because we started with Tandaya Trail 1, Tandaya Trail 2, and right now we are on the Tandaya Trail Trail 3, which is part of isa na ho doon yung example is the Burubaybay Mangrove Conservation Area na kung saan meron ho tayong mga women's association at saka yung mga youth organizations na tumutulong doon sa specific site. Ang kagandahan lang ho, Mr. Chair, Secretary Berna, kasi yung site na to meron talaga tayong nakapaloob or nakalagay na mga project managers who are handling the program. I would like also to commend the Secretary for her campaign for the vaccination of tourism frontliners. Ang laking tulong ho nito kasi ito lang ho yung makakapag-boost ng moral din nila at saka yung confidence. Hindi lang naman yung turista ang natatakot na mahawaan ng COVID but also those who are serving the tourists. So thank you for prioritizing the vaccination, especially for the frontliners. And marami na ho tayong mga community-based organizations na nagsiserve po dito sa circuit who are vaccinated already. And then we are also grateful to Sec Berna for the yung sa bayanihan po natin, yung cash assistance program, around 6,000 plus yung nag-benefit ho ng mga banig weavers, yung mga tricycle at saka yung mga habal-habal drivers natin, yung mga yung nakapaloob dun sa circuit natin sa tourism. So ang laki ho ng tulong nila na naibigyan po natin sila ng ganun. So nagpaparating ho rin ho sila ng pasalamat nila. And yung ano ko po ngayon, yung tanong ko po sana, considering that the global health situation and the rising case of COVID-19 in the Philippines, medyo it made us difficult to make a tourism reboot until this time. So what is the assistance of the DOT dun sa tourism frontliners natin? Masasali po pa ba sila sa Bayanihan 3 program ng government? Yun po yung first question ko po.
Yes, Mr. Chair. We spoke to Dolly. Sabi namin, sasabit namin kung may, I'm not sure kasi kung may nakalaad sa House or sa Senate na like nung Bayanihan 2 kasi merong 3.1 billion only for tourism. I'm not sure kung sa Bayani kung general na lang. But ang sinabi po namin sa Secretary Bebot Bello, kung pwede pa rin, tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang pagbigay namin yung mga nangangailangan sa tourism for Bayanihan 3. So kahit na general, we will continue to endorse yung ating mga tourism stakeholders.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair, to our good secretary. Kasi ang laki ho ng tulong nung naibigay natin dun sa Bayanihan 2. I hope we can have a good representation also to the Dolly family that they will also consider for the Bayanihan 3 to have also intended for our frontliners for tourism. Kasi ngayon po talagang kailangan ho ng mga pamilya nila. And then my second question po, Mr. Chair, is about in view of the forthcoming full devolution, has the DOT come up with a comprehensive program that will give focus on preparing the LGUs transition to taking in more responsibilities in the development and promotion of their tourism resources? What are the specific programs will be rolled out in 2022 to increase the capacity of LGUs as far as the tourism governance is concerned? So, kasi po, dito sa ground, when I discussed this with the mayors and Gov Tan, medyo ano pa sila, yung in limbo pa sila kung ano ba talaga yung ano ba yung role na gagampanan, additional roles na gagampanan ng mga local executives. And then I think we need to capacitate them also kasi iba pa rin po yung may mentoring galing po sa DOT, and paano po, ano po ba yung matitira sa DOT, ano po rin ang maibibigay na responsibility na nandito na sa LGU?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Pursuant to the Supreme Court decision on the Mandanas-Garcia petitions in Section 17 of the Local Government, the department recognizes the need to lay down measures for the seamless transition of functions to the LGUs, given their additional funding and responsibilities beginning fiscal year 2022. Following the guidelines set forth in the national budget for fiscal year 2022, what we did was a frame of the restatement of its steering function based on the devolution principles to set the national tourism policy, development strategy, and service delivery standards, and provide technical assistance to LGUs for them to assume the roles given the devolution. Continue to provide public services with significant interjurisdictional externalities or benefits, and those that involve economies of scale. Formulate and pursue institutional development programs in close consultation with the LGU to strengthen their capacities and capabilities to fully assume the devolved functions. We are likewise guided by sections 35 to 37 and sections 39 to 44 of the Tourism Act, which focuses on the shared responsibilities of national and local governments. Some of the functions of the DOT's tourism policy and planning and locally funded project under the branding campaign programs shall be devolved to the LGUs. We could submit to Congresswoman all the, I can continue.
Mr. Chair, Secretary, we will just ask for the copy of the details para din po ma-inform na rin ho namin yung mga mayors so we can prepare also for, because right now we are preparing for the 2022 budget and we're preparing for the AIP ng mga locals. So para ma-incorporate na rin ho namin. So we'll just ask if we may ask it from the region.
Yes,
Mr.
yes,
Chair.
Kong Shari Ann, we will ask and provide the same. Unfortunately, you are out of time. Would you like to be listed for the second round? Seeing as Congresswoman
Yes,
Ilago is still in this
Yes,
call,
po.
if ever, babalik ka in only 5 minutes. Would you like to be listed again?
Yes, po. Mr. Chair, please include me in the next round.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, po.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Tan. We would like to recognize now the Honorable Bonito Singson on the part of the majority.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few questions for the Honorable Secretary, Mr. Chair. Good morning to everybody.
Please proceed.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask the Secretary if the department has any specific programs for the development of tourism in Vigan, Ilocos Sur, considering that vegan has been consistently included and mentioned in their various advertising materials? My first question, Mr. Chair.
Secretary?
Yes, continuous po yung ating tulong sa vegan sa Ilocos Sur. In fact, number one, nagbigay po tayo ng financial assistance also through the DOLE, doon po sa Ilocos Sur, lalo na sa vegan. Number two, we also gave yung amin online registration system, the TPB. Yun po binigay rin natin para makapagbukas na po ang vegan nung nakapagbukas. Number three, we are already getting the count para sa vaccination po ng ating mga tourism workers doon, lalo na po yung mga kalesa drivers. So we will be asking for an allocation for the tourism frontliners para po sa vegan at saka sa Ilocos Sur. Number four, through the tuloy-tuloy naman po, kasi totoo po yung sinabi ni Congressman Benito, na tuloy-tuloy naman po talaga laging nare-recognize ang vegan all over the world. So palagi siya kasama sa ating mga branding campaigns, promotional campaigns all over the world para maging top of mind, hindi po mawala.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, my question actually is, do you have any specific program, like for example, any infrastructure, planned infrastructure for let's say a tourism office, not only for vegan but for the whole of Ilocos Sur? And then aside from that, the development of tourism-related industries that will be an additional attraction, no? Because when tourists come to the local tourist areas, very often tourists expect to bring home a small souvenir item, no? So like for example in vegan, it is well known that we have our so-called pagburnayan, no? Our local pottery, which is very, very popular. And to this very day, I have not seen any help or program from the tourism department to help us package or develop, design, so that this can be handily carried off by tourists coming into vegan. That will add value to their trip and added value to our economy, because then we will be generating a lot of income for the locals. Aside from that, we have also the more famous abel making. So far, maybe the tourism department can help us with the packaging, with the developing, designs, and promotions as well, no? To help us properly promote these products. Aside from that, we have a traditional jewelry making, no, in the town of Bantay, which is adjacent to vegan. This has been all of these industries, local industries, have been with us since time immemorial, no? Even the jewelry making and best known product of the jewelry making industry in vegan and Bantay for that matter, no, the adjoining town, is what we call the tambourines, which to this very date is very fun, a very prized possession for a lot of women and men as well, no? Because this goes on in, this is a very good accessory, jewelry accessory for our local barong and formal ladies' dresses. And I haven't seen any program that would, we don't want people to be just coming in and then eating. No, we want them also to go home with a piece of souvenir items that are locally produced, locally developed, and traditionally made in vegan. Mr. Chairman, may I ask? May I ask the one to respond to that, Mr. Chair?
Madam
Mr.
Secretary.
Chair, we have also completed our food tourism resource inventory of Region 1, and of course, kasama po ang Ilocos Sur sa slow food, slow travel product development for Ilocos Sur, specifically vegan. Meron din po tayong na-allocate na pondo for the tourism circuit development of 2 districts of Ilocos Sur in the new normal, kasama ang slow food movement, bike tourism for the 2 districts, and Inabel Weavers training. But we will be working also with the DTI kasi marami pong na-mention po ng ating good congressman. We will be coordinating with them because this is going to be under them. But of course, we will be working with them. With regard to infra, unfortunately po, wala pong pondo ang Kiesa. Wala pong travel at nung Bayanihan 1, kinunan po ng 12 billion pesos ang Kiesa. So as of now, wala po kaming infra. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. To continue with that questioning, may I ask that the Honorable Secretary submit a concrete action plan on what they will do to promote the industries that I mentioned, aside from the Abel, the Pagburnayan, as well as the jewelry making. My next question, Mr. Chair, if allowed, is regarding when I'm about to file a bill in Congress called the Jego Silang Bill, wherein I will be proposing that Jego Silang be recognized as one of our national heroes, of which he is already, but formally wala pa siyang recognition. Jego Silang, for the information of everyone, can be considered as the first revolutionary when he started his the first Philippine Revolt way back in 1762, somewhere thereabouts, during the Spanish-British War. We have a complete material on the history of his revolt, which wherein his headquarters was in Vigan, Ilocos Sur, and he had commanders all over the area fighting against the colonizers then. If we could get some opinion from the Secretary, Mr. Chair, on how they can help us also see this to fruition.
Madam Secretary, the Honorable Singson has exceeded his time, so that would be his last question for now. Would you please answer?
Mr. Chair, of course, we will support that bill. And of course, we will be working with, we are members of the NCCA, and so we will be supporting the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would like to manifest also that I'd like to be listed on the second round to continue my interpellation.
Thank you, Chairman Singson. We will do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Secretary Berna.
Yes, is the Honorable Ilago back in the session? Comsec? Okay, we would now like to recognize the Honorable Crystal Bagat Singh from the City of Manila. Just a reminder to our members,
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and to the DOTR family. Can you hear me?
yes. Good morning, Congressman Bagat Singh. Just a reminder to all of our interpellators that 5 minutes is very short.
Okay, Mr. Chair, can I just ask the IA and the national parks if they have a presentation?
Crystal, may I just make a brief manifestation and instructions to our distinguished interpellators?
Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes. That's simply that if we can go directly to your questions, we appreciate that we are being very, how shall we say this, courteous to our guests. But to maximize your time, we will not, I'm sure they will not take offense if that we just jump directly into the questions. And that, even in the laying of the context of the questions, not to worry that they and we will understand what the questions are about. With that, the Honorable Crystal Bagat Singh is recognized. Please proceed, Kong Crystal.
Okay. Again, good morning, everybody, to the DOT family. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Mr. Chair, gusto ko lang po sanang tanungin kung may presentation sana ang IA at saka ang National Parks.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Ready.
Secretary, you're recognized.
We could start with IA. I'd like to call Administrator Guillermo Acido. We also have with us Jezreel, Deputy Executive Director of National Parks.
Secretary,
Yes.
may I ask that you just lift the face shield just a little bit because it is we cannot hear you. It's very muffled. Anyway, we have sufficient, we are very compliant in our social distancing.
Pwede ko na ba tanggalin? Thank you. We have a presentation for the IA and also for the NPDC. But whoever...
Ma'am, sige, ganito na lang po, Sec. Mr. Chair, in the interest of time, baka na, I can just go straight na lang to my questions and then maybe we can just ask them to give us a copy of their presentation.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Okay. So let me go to my question right away then. My question would be for Intramuros. Mr. Chair, I would like to know how the informal settler and housing relocation is doing with regards to Intramuros.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, representative of IA is recognized.
Mr. Chair, the program of the Intramuros administration, the simple program, is currently ongoing, and we are actively implementing it along with the Socialized Housing Finance Corporation. So on track po tayo in terms of execution of the program. We have initially identified po the first families that will be moving for this fiscal year. So this is a voluntary relocation resettlement program po. It's socialized housing. Hindi po siya forced eviction, hindi rin po siya yung pinipili. Wala pong pilit na nangyayari, nagaganap. So meron pong first families that will be moving will be 70 ang data po namin. All voluntary po ito, and that they will be we have identified a property po sa may wrong Rizal for this one.
Okay, maraming salamat po. Mr. Chair, kaya rin po ako nagtatanong regarding this kasi kahapon po ay nakakuha ako ng tawag mula sa mga residente ng Balon area na tinatawag natin. May concerns lang po sila kasi ang unang napag-usapan ay ang relocation nila ay mangyayari sa Cavite. Tapos ngayon sa Rizal na po. May iba pa bang options na tinitignan para sa kanilang relocation? Humihingi lang ho sila ng pagkakataon baka sakaling pwedeng mas malapit-lapit naman daw po. Yun lang naman.
Mr. Chair, may mga tama po si Congressman Crystal na may na-identify na po talagang property initially noon sa Cavite. Meron din pong na-identify din po sa Bulacan. Kaya lang po, based do sa evaluation ng Socialized Housing Finance Corporation, may mga problema po in terms of the legal ng property. So, pinakita po namin yung property sa Morong at 70 of the informal settlers naman po have expressed their approval of it. Pero kung ganun pa naman po, of course, we will discuss this po with our partners sa SHAPC para po mabigyan pa rin po sila ng ibang options.
Okay, and Mr. Chair, hingi na lang po ako ng meeting. Baka sakaling pwede na lang kaming sabay makipag-usap ng Intramuros Administration at kasama ng mga barangayan na nakatira sa Intramuros. So, with that, my next question is, given the current state of tourism, how much is the proposed budget of Intramuros administration and the national parks set by the DBM, and is this enough? What was the proposed budget of the IA and NPDC to DBM, and how can we help our tourism get back on its feet?
Admin G, can you answer that? I'll just mention the budget that is given to us for Intramuros administration was 63.7 million. And for NPDC, it was 203.79 million. To answer, kulang po, I think Admin G can explain yung Intramuros administration. And also, Deputy Executive Jezreel will also explain kung bakit kulang. Thank you.
Thank you po, Secretary. Mr. Chair, with respect to the budget allocation po, actually we submitted to DBM a proposal of 268 million, 268.7. Unfortunately po, it was cut down to 63 million lang po eh. Ang ibig pong sabihin nito is ang natira pong budget for us to work on, given the fact na wala pong may restrictions pa sa pagtanggap ng turista, ay 23% lang po ang matitira for conservation, maintenance, and other works ng Intramuros administration. So ang diniscuss po namin ito kay Secretary at sana po ay matulungan kami na makatanggap pa rin po ng additional budget para lang po sa operations ng Intramuros administration. The additional budget po will go to security, will also go to maintenance lang po eh. So nothing will go to for salaries naman po, for bonuses. Wala pong ganon. It will be basically to ensure the security and maintenance of the parks and also the sites that we are conserving po.
Thank you.
Yes, national parks.
Yes, thank you, Sec and Admin G. Mr. Chair, for the National Parks Development Committee, for our supplemental needs, our Tier 2 projects for 2022, we have an urgent priority to transfer our NPDC offices to the central section. This is due to the RE 11333, or the National Museum Law, wherein our office, our current NPDC compound, is within their complex, the National Museum complex. So there is a need for us to transfer our current offices to the central section of our Rizal Park. That's worth 29.126 million, 29 million, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Chair, kasi because of the law, they have to transfer kasi that portion where they're in right now is already owned by the National Museum. So they need the funds. Magkano na lang?
29 million. 29 million.
Okay. We will be submitting it to you, Mr. Chair. Or we have already submitted it.
Honorable Bagatsing.
Yes, okay, Mr. Chair, I'll just get a copy from the committee of what they submitted. And lastly, I just would like to manifest support to increase the budget of tourism. As Secretary Berna said kanina in her opening statement, that tourism is everybody's business. So let's make it our business also to help the tourism industry and in the way help our country as well. Yun lang po, maraming salamat.
Honorable Bagatsing, as the home district of IA and national parks, we are expecting that you will, during the period of amendments, that would you like to be the one to introduce the augmentation for the said two attached agencies?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yes, of course.
Okay, then we will await that at the proper time. Thank you, Congresswoman.
Thank you
Bagatsing.
very much, Mr. Chair.
May we now hear our Deputy Speaker DV Savillano from Ilocos Sur. As a Deputy Speaker, then I am assuming it is just a manifestation. The Honorable Deputy Speaker is recognized. Muted. Deputy Speaker, you are on mute. Okay. It appears that the Deputy Speaker Civilian is having technical difficulties. We will recognize the Honorable Sabiniano Kanama for the manifestation.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kong.
Yeah, thank you so much. Am I loud and clear? I am using another gadget of my staff. Sir, good morning. My warm greetings to the Department of Tourism family led by Secretary Oyat, as well as the presiding officer of this committee briefing. First of all, I would like to appreciate yung mga lahat na mga ginagawa po sa Department of Tourism, especially in addressing the concerns of the highly affected tourism industries. Kasama na po yung mga transport cooperatives at yung mga cooperatives engaged in tourist activities, may mga resorts and so forth. Ang manifestation ko lang po, may I humbly request na yung Department of Tourism po makita po nila ng pangangailangan sa mga kooperatiba engaged in tourist industries na talagang natamaan po yung kanilang mga programa, kasi yung marami sa kanila nakapag gastos na sa infra, capital and so forth, tapos bigla pong nasara, meaning nag-lockdown. Nakaikot-ikot pa po sa ibang mga lugar. I am deeply I felt po na sorry po sa kanila kasi nasara yung mga resort nila at malaki na pong investments nila. Yung transport industries din, nakautang na po sa bangko, tapos patuloy na po yung sinisingil, wala talagang maibayad. May I ask po, Mr. Chairperson, kung ano po ang programa sa Department of Tourism doon, especially on the cooperatives na until now nakikiusap po, paano po sila makabangon doon?
Yes. Mr. Chair, nung po sa Bayanihan 2, meron po na ilaan na 6 billion po. Those are for the MSMEs. Yun po ay under 4, which is with the DTI. Yung rates po noon ay 4 years to pay, 0 collateral, 0 interest, at may 2-year grace period. That's the best na po makukuha nyo kung uutang sila. Tapos po, nung nabigyan po sa Bayanihan 2 ng financial assistance through the DOLE, nabigyan naman po, hindi lang po ito nilimit sa mga nagtatrabaho sa hotel, kasama po, like gaya po ng sabi ni Congressman Sharitan, kasama po dito yung mga pedicab drivers, habal-habal, tricycle drivers, bangkero, lahat po yon ay kasama. So yun po ay under Bayanihan 2. Ngayon po, kasi lahat po pag umiikot kami, ang gusto po nila ay bakuna. Again, when we talk about vaccination, we only don't talk about yung mga nagtatrabaho sa hotel. Kasama like gaya ng sinabi namin nung nasa sa Baguio, sinama din namin yung mga pony boy, lahat, yung mga land transport, lahat po ito kasama sa pagbakuna. Nung sa Palawan, ganun din po. Sinama rin po lahat, everybody in that destination, sinasama po namin sa active tourism workers. Now, tuloy-tuloy naman po ang ating mga training under yung parang Filipino brand of service under the new normal. Tuloy-tuloy po ito. And yun po ang ginagawa po natin. Unless you want to add, mukhang okay naman po.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mr. Chairman. May I continue? So, may I be allowed na mag-submit po kami ako po as the representative of the cooperatives po, we would like to express our heartfelt thanks po our dear secretary. If we will be allowed, we will make a sort of inventory sino-sino pong pwede makaabil po doon sa sinasabi po ni ma'am. Can we directly submit it to your office or saan po namin i-submit yung mga request nila? Kasi marami pong tumatawag sa akin saan daw sila magpasaklolo. So I am happy of that announcement na mayroon palang available na programs. Saan po namin i-submit, Madam?
Mr. Chair, yung po sa Bayanihan to Financial Assistance, yung allocation ng tourism po, tapos na, ubos na. Pero namin pag sa Bayanihan 3, kung pwede pa rin kami mag-endorse, but we will be submitting it po to your office. Kung sino po yung pwede mag-avail nitong financial assistance, and yung request po ninyo, ibibigay po namin, i-endorse po namin sa DOLE.
Thank you for that. Hopefully, dito po sa Bayanihan 3, kung matuloy at saka yung sa budget ninyo sa 2022, makasama po yung mga packages para po doon sa mga cooperatives na natamaan po. Ako, I personally, in behalf of the Coopnatco Party List at sa mga kooperatiba, we fully support the Department of Tourism's plans and programs, including your budget, at saka kung may mga proposed increases, we fully support po. Lastly po, Madam Secretary, may I be allowed to have a meeting with your regional director po sa Region 10? Kasi natandaan ko po, there was a time, nag-usap po kami, may isa po siyang commitment sa akin doon, hindi lang masyadong natuloy. May I be allowed to have another meeting with her?
Yes,
The regional director of Region 10 po, kung nandito po siya, on a separate meeting po.
Mr. Chair, what region?
Region 10.
Region 10, of course.
Yeah. Is it okay?
Of course, Mr. Chair, our regional director is with us online right now, and she will set up.
Can we have a meeting this afternoon after this briefing?
Yes, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you so much, Mr. Chairperson. That's all in behalf of the Coopnatco Party List. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can maybe ask if the Honorable Hector Sanchez is in the Zoom session already?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Please proceed, Kong Sanchez. You're recognized.
Salamat po, Mr. Chairman. First, I would like to congratulate and commend the good Secretary, Bernadette Poyat, and of course, the family of the OT for garnering the first department. And also, I would manifest to support to the department and add more funds because as noted of everyone, this is everybody's business, especially for the new normal. My first question, Mr. Chairman, I have noticed that in the Philippines.travel website, where tourism.gov redirects a user under the see and do portion. Catanduanes only has one thing to see and do, which is Puraaran surfing. That is a grave injustice to my province of Catanduanes because there is so much more to see and do in my province. In fact, I have requested assistance to your office to conduct a dive site mapping in my district to identify sites with high tourism value. May I know whether it is possible for Department of Tourism to conduct not only dive site mapping, but also mapping of other tourist venues so that it will be included in the DOT's website, which will finally reflect comprehensive and accurate information. And may I know how soon can DOT rectify the error or injustice done to Catanduanes by only showing one thing to see and do there?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Definitely, our regional director, Region 5, will get in touch with you ASAP. We will definitely add more to what to see and do in Catanduanes, not limited to diving. It could also be culinary and the sites, outdoor activity, lahat. We will be meeting with you this afternoon. I agree with you, dapat hindi lang po isa. And then we will, as soon as we do we meet with your office and to see what circuit we could promote in Catanduanes, we will be uploading it as soon as possible in our Department of Tourism website. We apologize for that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Secretary. Next question po, Sir, Mr. Chairman. Can I continue, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, you're recognized.
Yeah, in the regional allocation of DOT's 2022 budget, the central office cornered 80.1% of the budget, amounting to 3.04 billion pesos, which NCR comes second with 8% or 304.9 million, while the rest of the regions are getting somewhere between a missing 0.06% and 1.1%. When in truth, this is the tourist destination in the regions outside of Metro Manila that contribute greatly to the tourism industry in the country. My question is, how will it be possible for these regions to improve the quality of tourism and support investment programs and tourism-related infrastructure and other programs to facilitate access to tourist spots with such inconsequential amount? Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Chair, though it is lodged in the central office, this is distributed equally to all the regions. We will be submitting to you according to what the regions request. We will be distributing it to you. It's not only for central office, but most of this kasi are large mga trainings emanates from the central office. But this does not mean that nasa central office lang po. This is distributed in all the different regions. In fact, for 2021, we will be submitting to you yung mga projects, and our regional director, Herbie, will be submitting to you yung mga projects natin for 2021 and also for 2022. But rest assured, hindi po ito centralized sa NCR or sa OSEC. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, Kong Sanchez.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and maraming salamat po sa ating mahal na kagalang-galang na Secretary, Bernadette Puyat, at sa kasamahan po nila. Salamat, maraming salamat. Magandang umaga.
Thank you, Congressman Sanchez. The beauty of Catanduanes is actually legendary, and I personally hope to visit there when all of this is cleared up. With that, we will now begin the second round, and may we recognize on the part of the. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I am sorry. There is still another item just now updated. May we please recognize the Honorable Abdullah Dimaporo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Please proceed.
Thank you again, and good morning to you and everyone, especially to our good Secretary, Berna. Mr. Chairman, not only is the good Secretary very attractive to tourists and to all of us, but she is very competent in developing our tourism. And I agree that we should increase her budget because the money that she spends for us will also gain money for the Philippines. With the tourists coming in, we will have more foreign currencies and the value of the pesos will be protected. It may even increase. And also, Mr. Chairman, if we increase their budget, they can work more with the local governments in developing tourism in the provinces. And those who have left their respective province will be attracted to return. And even those in adjacent provinces will also be visiting where there are tourist attractions, meaning that the department will help in the circulation of money and therefore in development of our country. And it will also help increase the budget that is being given to the other departments, Mr. Chairman. So I support, Mr. Chairman, that we help the good secretary to have more appropriations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Dimaporo. So with that, I've been given both a minority and the majority listed earlier a chance to ask their questions. We start the second round. The reservations have been made. May we please recognize again.
Si Sarate. Wala pa yun.
So we now recognize the Honorable Sherry Antan for the second round. Kong Tan, you have another 5 minutes.
Mr. Chair, good morning. Yeah, my question, my fourth question after po, third question after sa yung nauna kong set. Will DOT continue to provide infra support for site development? Example, the Santa Rita Boardwalk. Kasi meron na po kaming project for the San Juanico lighting. And then TIESA already funded for the boardwalk ng Santa Rita. And ngayon sinulatan po kami sa province na hindi muna maibibigay because of the current situation of pandemic. So ang question po namin, maibibigay pa rin po ba to ng TIESA or hindi na po?
Yes, Mr. Chair, kasi wala pong pondo ang TIESA ngayon. For Bayanihan 2, nakuha po yung 12 billion. And because wala pong travel ngayon, walang travel tax. So zero ang budget ng TIESA. In fact, TIESA po ay humihingi pa ng budget para pang sweldo ng kanilang mga tao. But rest assured, Mr. Chair, kapag may pondo na, we will act on this. But as of now po, wala po kasi wala pong pondo. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. My last question po, Madam, Mr. Chair, to the good secretary. What are DOT's specific program for farm tourism development, specifically in areas like Samar, where farmers need support to become farm tourism sites? As of now po kasi, Mr. Chair, it's not only for farm tourism, but we call it the nature school, which we also include the flora and fauna, the endemic trees, where DNR and DOT can collaborate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll give the floor to ASIC Chris.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mr. Chair, we are focusing now on product development and market promotion for farm tourism for areas that are developed na po. Especially, I think you have a project on green livelihood. And one aspect is to include culinary tourism as part of the tourism offering of the farm tourism sites, and also integrate cultural tour circuits within the farm tourism camps or sites. And another aspect of the strategy or framework of the DOT now is to link our farm tourism camps to or sites to our DOT accredited establishment, wherein we will have an ecosystems that our farmers and fishers operating the farm tourism sites, linking them to other players of the value chain, like the network of hotels, restaurants, and resorts that will allow them to directly sell their products, to have a community-led and sustainable farm, not only farm tourism, but more of a agri and tourism industry. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, yes, we would like to ask the OT if we can have several sites in the province to be included. Matutuwa ho yung mga people's organization namin. And lastly, we would like to invite the good secretary, because the last time I received a communication from the regional office that the good secretary has a plan to had that plan to visit us and have experienced the Tandaya Trail, and at the same time somehow savor and taste the culinary, the secret kitchen in the province of Samar. I hope we can invite her again and introduce her to our people's organization. Again, we are very much willing and eager to show him around in the province of Samar. Again, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Secretary Berna.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. May we now recognize the Honorable Bonito Singson.
Your Honor. Mr. Chair, yes. It's my second round, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Kong Singson, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. For my second round, I'd like to expound on my questions earlier. No? As far as the Diego Silang issue is concerned, Mr. Chair, Madam Secretary, will you be able to allocate some funds for the proposed putting up of a statue for it will become a tourist spot again, no? Complete with history, and it will become the tourist spot within within Vegan, because we propose to put this up in the same area where he had his headquarters during his revolt. Can the department help us with funding on this, and or if not, designing the whole complex? Since I noticed that in your budget, you have an allocation of market and product development for about 2 billion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, with regard to infra, that is with Chiesa, And as I've said, wala pong pondo ang KEZA ngayon. But we could actually submit this to the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, NHCP, kasi may budget po sila for monuments. So we
Okay.
will be enforcing this to the NHCP.
So as soon as I file the bill, Mr. Chair, Chair, I'll be providing a copy to the Honorable Secretary. Then, which leads me to ask, the 2 billion that is included in your budget for market and product development, what's the utilization of this fund?
Utilization.
Yeah, you're asking Congress to allocate to more or less 2 billion, no? Market and product development.
I'll ask Yusek Verna, please.
Thank you very much, Secretary. In terms of utilization, for the 2 billion, this is still projected for 2022, Your Honor. But for 2021, we have actually already almost used up the budget for, we are 39%.
My question is, Mr. Chair, my question is, what does market and product development mean?
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
The Department of Tourism being, as it is called, tourism, probably your product is tourism sites, tourism, so what do you mean by market and product development?
Thank you very much for the clarification, Your Honor. For product development, in the National Tourism Development Plan, there are what we call 10 different product portfolios that are mentioned there. So these are different products that are linked to the various resources of the Department of Tourism. So included here are products, for example, like health and wellness tourism, dive tourism, farm tourism, nature-based tourism, culture-based tourism, MICE tourism. So these are various products po that are being developed.
So when you say products, these are products that you develop for sale, or
these are what we call tourism. In the context po of tourism, ang products po is what we call the tourism experience. So
tourism experience. So
yes,
can you put this in layman's language? How can I experience your product, market and product development worth 2 billion? In relation to, let's say, what I'm talking about as far as vegan is concerned, where you yourselves are using vegan to promote your agency. However, you do not seem to feel the market and product there.
Okay po. In relation po sa product development, normally in the case of the Department of Tourism, what we do is we conduct assessment of various destinations depending on the products that are identified. Like for example, in the case of vegan, we can give you an example that we're looking at it as a food tourism destination. And we conducted the validation trip not only by the Department of Tourism, but our partners in the private sector. And in that particular validation trip, for example, on slow food, slow travel, we were able to discover that there are quite a number of iconic dishes and arc of taste products that are prevalent in that region. So the idea there is to develop various programs, like for example, developing a market tour for the vegan public market, because when we went there, we saw so many different interesting products on food tourism there. So yun po, that's included in the whole gamut of product development. Packaging the product, training the stakeholders. Like for the market tour of vegan, we can train, we're looking into training possible local guides for development, and also working with your tour operators, local tour operators, to run these programs for domestic and foreign tourists eventually. So this is normally the process that we do. We validate, and then the private sector will now package, and then eventually these products are marketed. So this is how we do it, sir.
May I may I know specifically how much is allocated to Bigan for your market and product development?
Okay, sir, can we provide you with that information? We can send that to your office because there are quite a number. I think there are also some programs that are related to bike tours and cultural and heritage tourism. So we will submit this to your office.
So yes, and then basically this is concentrated on food tourism.
Not necessarily food tourism, sir, because according to our regional director, they're also developing programs like bike tours and heritage tourism programs.
Okay. So as I said, no, and the 2 billion that's allocated for this, and particularly the amount that's allocated to Bigan, cannot anymore be reallocated for, let's say, more. If we were to make suggestions, which we would consider more meaningful, more permanent, more visible, and definitely tourism attraction.
Definitely the inputs of the Honorable Congressman will be much appreciated as we go into detailing the programs that we have for 2022. Thank you very much.
Okay, so my question is, you can still reprogram those funds that are allocated or not anymore for
There are
2020?
certain, pwede naman po yun. Kasi hindi ba right now what we are presenting are the indicative budgets that we have for 2022. But there will be some leeway for adjustments.
Okay, Mr. Chair, may I request that the department send me to the committee, copy furnish this dispensation, a detailed list of their requirements for a possible reprogramming of whatever funds they may have allocated in our particular area of Bigan, considering that Bigan is a major tourism one, and we would like to the programs for tourism-related programs by all agencies concerned will really be it will add value to what we have there now, instead of going into programs that may not have a long-lasting effect and may not contribute economically to our area, Mr. Chair. So may I ask the department to submit to me at least the detailed listing of their programs, and then the procedures on how we can request for a reprogramming if in case there is a need. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so can I get that commitment, Mr. Chair, from the Department of Tourism?
Yes, of course. I will make that commitment on behalf of the department. Your time is up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for accommodating. No more questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank
I will
you.
just wait for the documents that I requested.
Yes, thank you to the Honorable Singson. Again, to those that are watching earlier, if we are going to put together both rounds of the Honorable Singson, there is some with regards to the term product and how it is applied here. Simply put, it is this, no. I think it is going to be a request, Madam Secretary, for basically a product for artisanal or craft tourism. Something that we have not really looked at more, but has become more apparent now during the pandemic. We're seeing the popularity of pottery, weavers, etc. And we know that if we include the actual visits to these places, it also affords our local artisans a chance to actually make sales to the tourists.
Yes.
And I know this is something that the department already has, but perhaps just to make it easier to understand, it is this kind of artisanal craft tour that we consider the product in the marketing sense. So the chair asks the department to provide the same for the Honorable Singson. May we now recognize also from Ilocos Sur, our Deputy Speaker, DV Sevillano. You're recognized, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Narinig ba ako? Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good morning to my colleagues. Good morning, Secretary Berna, and to the DOT family. Una-una po, kami nagpapasalamat sa distrito ng Ilocos Sur at saka buong sa Ilocos Sur po sa lahat ng po ng tulong nyo kasi wala ko kayong sawang tumutulong sa amin. So I'll take this advantage to personally through Zoom to thank you, Madam. Lagi kang nagpupunta sa Ilocos. So another Mr. Chairman, yung Northern Luzon Growth Quadrangle strategic planning namin, we have a plan for tourism. Nag-strategic planning po kami for farm tourism. So, Mr. Chair, pwede po niyo ba kaming tulungan yan?
Yes. Mr. Chair, we will be closely coordinating also with the Department of Agriculture. So with regard to farm tourism, it's the Department of Agriculture that also identifies kami po yung nagpo-promote ng farm tourism. But perfect po farm tourism now, especially yun po yung hinahanap ng travelers under the new normal. But of course, we will be helping the Mr. Chair, Congressman Sevillano.
Yeah, Madam Chair, yung North Luzon Growth Quadrangle Strategic Planning for Barangay Farm Tourism Development. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Bale, ang name po ng project namin doon, take note lang, Madam Secretary, Barangay Entrepreneurship Resources Nurturing Agritourism.
Maganda po yung ibig sabihin nun.
Hindi ko po narinig.
Opo, narinig ko po, Berna.
Berna, okay. So yun yung sanang gusto namin pagpatulungan na programa sa inyo for Northern Luzon po. And that will include na yung mga sinasabi kanina ni Kong Bonito, nandiyan na ho yung mga traditional crafts, nandiyan na yung mga culinary, nandiyan na yung mga tourism sites, everything na doon po yun. So sana matulungan niyo po kami dito kasi may program na kami for Northern Luzon para maging loop. Di ba sinabi niyo kanina na loop ito. So all the districts, provinces, municipalities, naka-loop po tayo dyan. Another thing, Madam Chair, yung how do you get certification or recognition of yung mga barangay farm tourism? Yung
Mr. Chair, we accredit po yung mga hotels, yung mga resorts, yun po yung na-accredit namin. The farm tourism sites, yes, Chris, yes. Mr. Chair, this is with regard to farm tourism sites.
Yes.
We give the floor to Ase Chris.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, Mr. Chair. Yes, sir. We can accredit naman mga farm tourism sites within the barangay network that you are mentioning. We just provide you and coordinate with you on the requirements based on our accreditation guidelines for farm tourism camps.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, can they give us yung mga requirements? Kasi as of now, in my district, I have 296 farm tourism sites.
Yes, Deputy Speaker, we will just provide you with all of these that you need, in particular for your district. Realize that you are not just a Deputy Speaker, but also a District Congressman, and that you do have your concerns. We will take care of you isulat na lang po sa committee tapos kami na pong bahala.
Yes, so another thing, Mr. Chair, yung since I want this farm tourism to be institutionalized in my district, yung University of Northern Philippines, now we're cropping up with a farm tourism course. Pwede niyo po ba kami matulungan dyan?
We could submit this to the CHED. I think this is with the Commission on Higher Education, so that they can also have courses on farm tourism.
Yes, Mr. Secretary, Madam Secretary, Mr. Chair, we have already a proposal already, and we're finalizing with the university para ma-institutionalize po namin yung yung training para dito.
Yes, of course, Deputy Speaker, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Another thing, Mr. Chair, yung mga border controls natin, doon kami nagkakaproblema. Kasi nagkakaiba-iba in different provinces. Wala ba tayong diyan? Wala ba tayong standard for parang hindi naman kasi if you go to another province, iba na naman yung protocols. Iba-iba. Ano pong gagawin natin dito para mas makapasyal yung tao natin?
This is also really up to the LG with according to their cases, yun yung border control. But as I understand, sa buong Region 1, iisa lang yata yung border controls niyo, yung mga hinihingi sa mga travelers.
Yeah, for Region 1. Pero pagpunta ka ng, kasi like in Ilocos, we can go to the Ka-region. We can go to Region 2. Then if you go to Manila, so, wala ho bang dyan? Paano natin gagawin yun?
We'll talk to the DILG kasi sarili talaga yung kanilang border controls. This is really up to the LGU. We'll be asking the help of the DILG with the provinces.
Ma'am, sa AITF, di ba yan? Di ba
palagi pong nadidiscuss, kasama po namin doon si Governor Dax, Kua. And also minsan kasama po rin namin si Governor Velasco with the ULAP. Pero lagi po nilang sinasabi kasi iba't iba yung kanilang cases per province. So iba't iba yung kanilang...
So if that's the case, Madam, Madam Secretary, talagang we need to push for yung domestic tourism talaga and yung mga farm tourism in our provinces. Kasi that's yun na lang pwede lang puntahan because of iba-iba nga yung mga protocols. Another thing, Madam Chair,
Deputy Speaker, you have exhausted your 5 minutes. Would you like to...
Sunod na lang po ako. Second round na lang. Thank you.
Okay.
Next round na lang po ako, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is the Honorable, I'd like to recognize the Honorable Sarate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maririnig po ba ako sa plenary?
Thank you. Please proceed.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair. Tatlong points lang po ang gusto kong mailinaw sa Department of Tourism. And talaga naman po ang industriyang ito, ang turismo, at ang departamentong ito ay talagang isa sa matinding tinamaan nitong pandemya ng COVID, no? Na nagresulta nga sa crisis. And as earlier, Mr. Chair, reported by the Good Secretary, 50% ng ating 82% of tourist arrival ang bumagsak, no? From high of 8.26 million in 2019 to 1.48 million in 2020. Kaya naman talagang napakaraming na-enumerate na programa ang binanggit kanina para mahikayat, no? If not the foreign tourists are ang mga domestic tourists, no? So napakaraming mga tourism activity. So ang una kong tanong dyan, Mr. Chair, at sa ating kagalang-galang na Secretary, kabahagi ba ng inyong very aggressive campaign ngayon to also make the Philippines, no, as a gambling tourism haven, no? Especially now that the supposed ban on casinos is already lifted by the President, Mr. Chair, Madam Secretary.
Mr. Chair, when you talk about casinos, that is under the PAGCOR, that is not under the Department of Tourism.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I know that for a fact that the regulation of casinos are under PAGCOR. But ang katanungan ko po, in the promotion ba sa Pilipinas bilang isang tourist destination, both foreign and domestic, ay kabahagi ba ito doon sa aspeto na tinitingnan ng Department of Tourism? No? Dahil, for example, we know for a fact that ang Boracay is the main destination ng ating mga foreign tourists. No? At doon nga ay na-lift na itong ban on casino. And sino bang ina-expect natin na pupunta sa Boracay para sa mga kasinong ito, Mr. Chair? So I just want to get the take of DOT on this aspect, Mr. Chair. Madam Secretary.
When it comes to the promotion of casinos, that is also under the PAGCOR. That is not with the Department of Tourism. When we promote our country, we promote sun and beach. Right now, ang hinahanap po ng ating mga travelers abroad, kung how safe it is here to come to the country when travel restrictions are lifted. Hinahanap po nila ngayon, let's say kung bakunado ba yung ating mga tourism workers, which we are doing, yun po yung po namin, yung health and safety, tuloy-tuloy na pa rin yung sun and beach, diving, etc.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Secretary. But again, sun and beach and Boracay is offering all these things, no? And so you welcome this lifting of this ban on the casino establishment in Boracay, Mr. Chair, Madam Secretary.
That is the decision of the President. So we follow the President.
Okay, at least that's very clear. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Secretary. Another point that I want to also raise, isa po sa program ng DOT, and even it is an attached agency of DOT, yung Philippine Retirement Authority. Of late, there are issues that are being raised on PRA na yung atin pong paghihikayat na ang mga retirees ay pumunta rito sa Pilipinas at manirahan dito is apparently being abused. No? I read one report that, and the department can confirm this and the agency can confirm this or deny this, that parang napaka open, no? Yung kahit sino na lamang ay pwedeng mag-apply dito sa programang ito ng PRA for for foreigners to come here and stay here. Mr. Chair, Madam Secretary, may we get a statement or a reply from the PRA or from the DOT, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, we suspended the issuance of SRRV, but then recently we allowed it again, but only for 50 years and above. With me, Yusek Raching, he is our representative for the PRA.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Through the chair, ang PRA po,
cannot hear you.
sorry po. Mr. Chair, yung pong nabanggit ninyo na may mga nabasa kayong balita noon, nung yan po yung makarating sa kaalaman ng ating chairman, ngayon, pinag-aralan po, ni-review po yung polisiya ng PRA. So nakita po nila na yung pong mga edad na tinatanggap noon ng PRA, which is batay rin po sa dating pulisiya nung nakaraang mga administrasyon po ng PRA. Pero ito po ay tinama ng administrasyon na ito ng ating secretary kung saan itinugma po sa iniuutos ng batas ng PRA yung EO 1037 na dapat
50 years old and above ang minimum entry requirement kung ang pag-uusapan po ay edad, at dapat po mag-stick lang talaga sa mga retiree na qualified po doon sa kinakailangang iba pang requirements katulad po ng deposit nila, no? Na ibig sabihin talaga pong sila'y nagtrabaho nung sila'y nung kanilang employable years pa, at ngayon po meron silang naipon para sila'y mag-retire, mag-enjoy ng buhay nila bilang hindi na nagtatrabaho. Yun po ang mga tinatanggap sa ngayon.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair, po doon sa katugunan. No? At siguro as a follow-up dyan, well, probably that's a policy of previous administrations, and it extended even up to recently, no? At bago lang napahinto. May I inquire what happened then to those retirees who na hindi naman pala qualified but were given as a residency status dito sa atin, because even if they are below 50 years old, no? Because of that nasamantala nga, Mr. Chair, yung policy na yan, at parang naging haven tayo, no? In fact, there were even reports na napakadali pa lang pumasok sa Pilipinas at magbayad ka lang para ka na ring isang permanent resident dito. So may I inquire from the PRA what happened to those who were supposedly not qualified but given that status here in the country? Were these cancelled, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Hindi naman po na legal po kasi yung punto, Mr. Chairman. Hindi po naman sinasabi natin na hindi sila qualified noon nung 35 years old ang program. Ito po kasi ay pulisiya rin na inilatag ng dating PRA board. Pero nung mga panahon po kasi ngayon, Mr. Chairman, hindi po ganoon ang environment natin. Wala pa po yung mga, kasi ang kinoconsider po noon yung maging marami tayong ma-attract na retirees. At may pinagbatayan din po daw sila ng 35 years old na yan, pati sa ibang jurisdiction. So hindi naman po ibig sabihin illegal po siya. Ngayon kung meron man po sigurong kinakailangan na gawing remedyo pa dyan, kung talaga pong may pagkakamali, which is hindi naman for the sake of argument lang po, yan po naman ay pwedeng i-discuss sa ibang ahensya ng gobyerno, lalo na po sa ating katulad po ng BI.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair. Pero dahil nga po ay nasa pamamahala yan ng PRA, even if it was the action of the previous administration or leadership ng PRA, at dahil nga binago ninyo po yan, Mr. Chair, ibig sabihin merong mali kaya binago, no? And hahayaan na lang po ba natin na gano'n na lang, ano? Nasasamantala yung policy na yan. May I just request, Mr. Chair, that if indeed there was a study or an investigation for the PRA to submit to the committee a detailed report on this and also to this representation para po mapag-aralan nating mabuti, dahil ayaw din po natin, no, na maging haven tayo ng mga dahil merong programang ganito ay magiging haven tayo ng mga mga banyaga na meron pong mga halimbawa masasamang record sa kanilang bansa. So may we get a commitment from the PRA for that requested report, Mr. Chair?
Yes, the time of the Honorable Sarate. The time of the Honorable Sarate is finished. Can we have the commitment from the PRA?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
By when can you submit the same?
We will submit.
Mr. Chair, just one last point, just a request also. I will no longer be asking question. Request na lang para isubmit din ng DOT or other agencies. This is in relation to our budget books now. I noticed na sa budget books natin, Mr. Chair, meron ng entry for overall savings, ano? In the past, since 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, walang entry on overall savings. So may request the department to submit to this committee as well as to this representation a report of how much savings ang na-generate nila in 2017, 2018, 2019, up to 2020, no? And if they nag-generate sila ng savings, anong ginawa nila sa savings? Were this used to augment programs, activities, and projects? If so, what are these programs, activities, and projects na generate ng department in this past years, Mr. Chair? And second, dahil naging mainit din na usapin ngayon itong procurement ng mga departments, may I also inquire from the department if other than commonly used supplies, no, na yun naman ang common na binibili sa DBMPS, ang DOT ba also procured other materials through the DBMPS or through PITC in these past years? And if there are, what are these materials that they course through DBMPS or PITC, Mr. Chair? May we get a commitment that these reports be submitted to the committee as well as this representation before the plenary debates, Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Congressman Serate. May we request, may the committee request your formal request for the same, so we can follow up the documents and the reports for you.
Yes, very well, Mr. Chair. We submit. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the indulgence, no, of my extended time.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. We have a manifest, maybe now recognized for the brief manifestation, the Honorable Ilago.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to raise a few concerns about the state of employment in the tourism industries. First, I'd like to ask, what's the total number now of the diversely affected workers in the tourism industries? And are there any aid or subsidies or assistance given to them or provided to this diversely affected workers now?
Mr. Chair, employment in tourism was estimated at 4.68 million in 2020. It's lower by 18.1% compared to the 5.72 million in 2019. So the share of employment in tourism to total employment in the country for 2020 is recorded at 11.9%. As mentioned before, because of Bayanihan 2, there was 3.1 billion was allotted for financial assistance. This was already all given out to those displaced tourism workers or those yung flexi pay, yung nabawasan yung sweldo. Aside from that, may 6 billion pesos. These are naman for yung mga MSMEs. This is lodged under the SB Corps with the DTI, 4 years to pay, 0 interest rate, 0 collateral, at saka 2 years grace period. So yun po ay, kasi this is, hindi po mandate po ng DOT, but because of Bayanihan 2, nakapag-allot sila ng pondo and the financial assistance was given through DOLE, and then yung working capital loan binigay po through SB Corps.
Mr. Chair, may we know the number of workers who benefited from the 3.1 billion under the Bayanihan?
Okay.
And are there any plans to put in the 2022 budget a continued assistance or aid to these workers?
Well, this is under Bayanihan 3 kasi hindi po mandate ng Department of Tourism to give financial assistance. So, pagkaintindi po namin in Bayanihan 3, wala pong specific allotment for tourism. It will be general funding. So what we will do is we will just be endorsing sa DOLE kung may mga displaced tourism workers. Now, for the 3.1 billion, 614,000 ang nabigay po. So, nabigyan naman po lahat.
Mr. Chair, Bayanihan 3 was mentioned. This is still pending before the Senate. And Malacanang has already said that they are rejecting the passage of this Bayanihan 3. And ang sabi po nila, Ginoong Chair, imbes na ipasa ang Bayanihan 3, ilagay na lang ang ayuda sa loob ng 2022 budget. Kung wala po sa loob ng DOT, nagkaroon ba kayo ng proposal sa kinakailangan na ayuda para po sa mga apektadong mga manggagawa sa sektor ng turismo? At magkano po ito para sa 2022 budget?
Madam Secretary, Mr. Chair. But if we talking about direct cash assistance to the affected workers, wala po doon sa proposal. But our training and other line items of the budget within the regional offices and at the head office focuses on assisting these affected, not only the workers, but also the establishments in coping up with this pandemic. Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Chair, may we request from the DOT the information about the diversely affected workers, since this youth representation is now preparing for a proposed amendment to include an ayuda for all, aid for all, not only for workers, but for poor and low income households. And we hope po, Mr. Chair, kung kakayanin pa, meron ding dagdag na subsidiya para dun sa ating mga manggagawa. Lalong-lalo na po sa turismo, sa industriya ng lodging, ng food, or restaurant, or hotels. Marami po dito halos sobrang hirap na makabangon. Kahit pa kunti-kunti na rin nagbubukas ang ating ekonomiya. At ngayon na mas tumataas pa yung COVID-19 infections, nadulot na rin ng mga bago at mas nakakahawang variants, mas malaki po ngayon yung uncertainties pagdating sa muling pagbubukas ng sektor na ito. Now, Mr. Chair, sa pagsusumite ng DOT, we hope that we can further prepare for that in the plenary. Now, let me go to our next and final concern, the huge budget cut in the funding in the proposed budget for the Intramuros administration for next year. So, Mr. Chair, this is down to 64 million from 111 million from 2021. May we know the reason of this huge decline in the budget for IA?
This was the budget provided by the DBM to us. That's why we are asking, Mr. Chair, kung pwede po madagdagan because it assumed na bukas ang Intramuros. Admittedly kasi a lot of the income of Intramuros goes kung pagbukas ang Intramuros, but because of we are in MACQ, sarado siya, so walang means of income. So we are in fact asking, Mr. Chair, Madam Congresswoman, na kung pwede mga madagdagan. And this is what we discussed. We already submitted it to Mr. Chair, yung proposed increase of the budget.
Mr. Chair, we'll look into this the original proposed budget of IA. Ngayon, Mr. Chair, sobrang kailangan natin ng mga lugar katulad po ng Intramuros. They have open public parks. Ito po yung mga espasyo na nais natin na mapuntahan ng ating mga kababayan. Of course, habang sumusunod sa mga restrictions, nag-a-adhere sa mga health protocols, dito po sila pwedeng makapunta para dun sa mga exercise at iba pang mga activities na makakatulong din sa pagpapalakas ng kanilang resistensya. Hindi lang sa paglaban sa COVID-19, pero yung laban na rin dun sa matagal na isolation at yung toll sa mental health na nadama ng ating mga kababayan. Kaya, Mr. Chair, ang representation po na ito, bukod po sa pag-aaral ng maaari pang maidagdag doon sa pondo sa ayuda sa mga manggagawa sa ating tourism industries, pag-aaralan din po natin yung mga kasalukuyang palisiya hinggil sa muling pagbubukas, yung ligtas na muling pagbubukas ng ating mga public parks and open spaces. Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair. Maraming salamat, CBO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. There being no others in the list of interpellators, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, there being no other members who wish to interpolate, I move that we terminate the budget briefing of the Department of Tourism. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Hearing no objections, the motion is carried. So the meeting is suspended until Monday, September 6th. Okay. Thank you.